did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Welcome everyone to my review of The Disaster Artist, James Franco's delightfully entertaining account of the making of the best worst movie ever made, The Room. So, no doubt many of you asking, what is The Room? Well, let me explain, because I appreciate this. This takes a degree of background context. The Room is a 2003 disaster piece, written, directed by and starring Tommy Wiseau, who is this incredibly enigmatic figure in filmmaking circles who wanted to make his directorial debut, wanted to make his mark in the manner of a James Dean or a Marlon Brando, but who instead has gone down in history as having made one of the most hilariously awful movies ever made. And now this movie inspires cult screenings all over the world, and I live in Bristol in the UK, and I'm lucky enough to have attended several screenings of this movie as part of the Bristol Bad Film Club. Shout out to Ty, its member. You do a great job, mate. Several of which have actually had Tommy Wiseau in attendance, which is an interesting experience. He's not necessarily in the same room, but he's in the same building, which is always a memorable experience. So, and there are several rituals involved in this movie because it is so bad. It is so bad. It is hilariously bad. The continuity errors, the ineptitude of the production, the awfulness of the acting, married with this absolutely sort of poker face seriousness of the material. It is properly gut-bustingly hilarious. So how best to describe the plot of this movie? Well, suffice it to say, Tommy stars in this movie as Johnny, who is a San Francisco banker who has a girlfriend, or future wife, I should say. He doesn't use the word fiancé. She is my future wife. I am your future husband. Lisa, who is cheating on him with his best friend Mark, played by Greg Sestero, who wrote the book The Disaster Artist about the making of The Room that this new movie is subsequently based on. If you haven't seen The Room, go and get a few friends around, have a few beers. You need to watch this in a group because it's a priceless experience. You won't quite believe what you're watching. And now James Franco has dramatised the initial meeting between friends, Tommy and Greg, and what subsequently led to The Room being made in the first place. Now, this is a really interesting case because what James Franco has actually done with this movie, he's actually taken the high ground. He's delved behind something which is widely considered a joke, justifiably so. And what he's done, he's actually extracted the humility and the warmth and the pathos out of this making of story in a way which is actually really sincere and really sweet and actually surprisingly affecting. So it starts off in 1998 when Tommy and Greg first meet as struggling actors in San Francisco. They have a shared dream of wanting to make it big in the acting world. They then move to Los Angeles, where they are continually rejected from auditions. They can't find their feet. They are turned away. Everyone turns their noses up at them. So they decide to make their own movie, which subsequently becomes The Room, which Tommy writes the script, and then it develops from there into an actual movie project. Now, the first sign that this isn't going to be this isn't going to be as straightforward as it looks, and that maybe Tommy doesn't quite know what he's doing, comes when they go to the Lens store in Los Angeles. And Tommy requests that the movie be shot in both 35mm and HD, to which the guy goes, well, it's not normally done that way. He's like, no, but it's a real Hollywood movie, we do it both. That's the first sign that this is going to be maybe a rather calamitous state of affairs. And indeed, as production of the movie gets underway, I don't really want to spoil it, but it's absolutely hilarious and jaw-dropping seeing how utterly surreal and hellish and weird the making of this particular film was, and indeed how strange the presence of Tommy Wiseau is. And having been in the same room as him, I can attest that he is what he is. He's a very, very unusual yet strangely captivating presence, and James Franco acts that absolutely brilliantly. He gets his speech patterns, his presence brilliantly well, really, really good. And as does Dave Franco as Greg Sestero. He's got the harder role because he's the straight guy, and he basically provides Tommy's human focus, really. He's the guy who mediates the strange, sort of utterly bizarre presence of Tommy when he's in amongst everybody else. But the really impressive thing about the movie is it doesn't mock. It really doesn't mock. Although it acknowledges the fact that this is something that people go and laugh at, justifiably so, it actually perversely turns the whole situation on its head, just as Greg Sestero's book does, which says, look, you might have made something that people routinely go to laugh at, but in its own perverse way, that's actually better than having made a movie that generates no reaction at all. This is a theme of the movie. At least you've made something that, in its own strange way, unifies people and brings people together. In its own way, it's a companion piece to what Tim Burton did with Ed Wood, the 1994 Johnny Depp movie, which I would hold up as both Burton and Depp's best movie. And similarly in that, Burton didn't do a snarky, ironic, sneering takedown of Ed Wood, who was regarded as the worst filmmaker ever made. He actually championed him and he said, well, look, he had a vision and he stuck to his vision regardless of how bad the movies are. At least he did it, and at least he now has a place in cinema history. And similarly with Tommy Wiseau, he has made something that against all the odds has become this phenomenon, and the movie champions that in a really, really quite profound and very affecting way, actually. And he finds the human dimensions in Tommy, he is a man. He is affected by the fact that in the early stages of the movie, he's continually thrown out of auditions. No one wants to know who he is because he's got this long black hair. People aren't quite sure what to make of him. And then when he's making his movie, he gets upset that people aren't respecting his vision. The movie brings that out very, very well, and it's very impressive. And I'd say it's probably one of the best movies about movie making I've ever seen. It's really properly funny. Stay to the end credits where you get the side-by-side comparisons of what James Franco has done with this versus the scenes from The Room themselves. And Franco has said that he recreated 30 minutes of The Room for the express purposes of this movie. And the effort is plain to see. It's a really, really sweet, moving, very funny, but the main word is affectionate movie. And I can't recommend it enough. Go and check it out. Drop me a comment here, and don't forget to give me a subscribe at Kubrick Corner Film Reviews. See you soon. What a story, Mark.